advised.
It's dark. The sun is just peeping through the clouds this morning, and this is Safari Live.
Ready. Standing by.
5, 4, 3, 2, 1. You are live, you are live. Good morning everybody, and welcome to hopefully another exciting sunrise safari here on Safari Live. My name is Taylor, and on camera with me this morning is Craig. He's back in action, he's feeling a little better, but if he falls off the side of the car, we probably should bring him home today. So we've strapped him in, he's got a Velcro seatbelt, and we're ready and raring to go. Now I've got some exciting news for all of you that have joined us for the first time. If you have just stumbled across us, we are a live safari feed out here in the middle of South Africa in the Sabi Sand Private Game Reserve, the land of the leopards. And it's myself and Tristan driving about this morning. And James will be joining us a little bit later, and he's decided to give bushwalk a skip and join us in the tent. And I'm sure he's got a couple of surprises for you. Now I know that a couple of you have been watching the dam cam this morning, and you've given us an update that there was a lioness at the dam, which is really exciting, because so far we have picked up on 3 different sets of male lion tracks. Haven't seen any female lion tracks just yet, but we will keep searching. Now it's a bit dark, as you've seen, for the moment, and there's lots of impala around, so I've just had to dim all my lights quickly as to not, well, temporarily blind them with the harsh light. Right, I'm just going to quickly check over here to see if there's any tracks. Come on guys, good morning. Good morning impala. Now, I did have them going on the southern road towards Quarantine. We just have to now make our way through the herd of impala very slowly. Good morning. They're in no hurry to go anywhere, as you can see. There we go, it's a bit better. Now I can put the lights on. Right, we're going to keep searching. I'm going to very quickly check Philemon's dip to see if they haven't gone down that way. Tristan's on lion tracks of his own. Let's go across and say good morning to him.
Good morning everybody, and welcome to a beautiful sunrise safari. My name is Tristan. On camera today I've got Dangerous Dave, and we are, like Taylor says, on tracks for lions, which is very exciting, and especially since somebody saw them on the dam cam, that there was a female and the Birmingham male. Now I wonder if it's not the Torchwood female, because yesterday in Torchwood there was a mating pair. One was a lioness from the Torchwood Pride, and one was a Birmingham boy, so maybe it's those two. Now the tracks were coming up where Taylor access for the male, but it seems like he's turned around and gone back towards where Taylor is, so we're going to just do a loop and just check Sandy Patch and Impala Plains to make sure he's not lying anywhere on those open areas, and then we'll come around and try and see if we can pick up the tracks again. But so far, from what I can see, none of the tracks have gone north, which is great news for us. It means that they should then theoretically be somewhere on Djuma, which is excellent. So without further ado, I think let's start looking for them. Dave, I reckon we're going to have a good morning. I reckon we're going to find these lions. Let's be very positive here and hope for the best. But like I was saying, the tracks that we did have turned around further back, and it looks like they went back towards where Taylor was. So I just want to make 100% sure that they haven't come northwards and up to this side. So it's worth just checking all of these areas first. Now when you track things like lions, it's often good to check open areas. Lions like to rest in more open sections. It's a funny thing, but when you're tracking them down, if they don't have food, then generally they like to lie either in open areas or on the road itself. So always worth checking big open clearings like Quarantine or Sandy Patch, Impala Plains. Those are all great areas for lions to lions, so that's why we're checking there. Even though we don't have the tracks heading that direction, it's not to say they haven't gone through the bush somewhere. In this dark, dingy light, it's really quite tough to be able to see tracks, so we are going to rely on the fact that we're going to try and use their behavior to track them down, which is a good way to do things from time to time. Now, Seems like the McCurdy herdie was also here at some point. Their tracks are scattered around the road, so keep an eye out for them too. Those of you who are not familiar with the McCurdy herdie, they are a group of zebra that Taylor has taken upon herself to habituate. So she's spent lots of time with them, and they're getting very, very relaxed. It's quite amazing actually to see them, especially on foot. Normally on foot, zebras are quite skittish and they move away quite quickly, but this particular herd is quite happy just to sit and watch you and see what you are. And the other night I was walking back on bushwalk, and I must have got within 10 meters of them, which is unheard of when it comes to zebras. They generally don't let you get anywhere near there. Now I just want to make sure that there's no tracks there for these lions. Doesn't look like it. I don't see anything here. So I think the tracks that Taylor is on are probably the better ones. They must be the fresher tracks. Now, I'm not sure if anybody can help us and let us know exactly what time those lions were seen at the dam cam. And if you do know, you can just send it through to #@SafariLive. Morning Glory, thank you very much for that information. You say 1:30 a.m. Well, that's not that long ago. So, although with lions 1:30, they in 3 hours can move quite far. So hopefully they haven't gone too far, but we'll definitely be checking and making sure to see where they go. Now, it is an interactive experience, and so any of you that are joining us today, if you're new viewers or just if you're regular viewers and you've got burning questions in your mind that you're unsure of about the African bush in general, and we'd love now, zebras all went up this way. I wonder if the zebras have come up this way because of these lions. So the lions walked across quarantine, which means that the zebras will not have been that happy about it. One thing a zebra does not like is a lion, so they might have thought, well, lions are here, we're going to go now and head into safer pastures, and have moved further north towards sort of Sydney's dam area, where it's quite open and they can see what's going on. But let's have a look. Well, I got an update from Rebecca that Taylor got a bug in her eye. I also just got hit in the face by a bug, so it is one of those mornings. You've got to be careful here. You've got to have a bit of ninja skill to duck and dive and try and keep out of the way of the flying insect experience when you're driving and all of a sudden this insect flies into your head, and it's very disconcerting. So hopefully Taylor will be alright. It's never very pleasant. You end up having this big red eye and it swells up and it looks like you have been going in 10 rounds with Mike Tyson. It's quite terrible actually. But luckily for me, and unluckily for Taylor, hers hit and mine managed to just glance off my cheek and carry on. Davy, have you been hit by any this morning? Not this morning, no. Bobby, this is a very good question, since we're talking about male and female lion tracks, or lions. You want to know what's the difference between the tracks and how do we know? Well, the simple answer to that is that at that age, an adult male lion and an adult female, the adult male is just that much larger. So he has a massive paw print. His paw print, if you had to go and look in the sand, would probably be about the size of my hand on the road. And whereas a female's would probably come to where my sort of mid fingers are, around there, and then the male lion a little bit longer. So the males is just that much bigger, that much wider, and that's why we can tell. And especially when they're walking together like they were in the tracks that we had, the one is just so much smaller than the other when they're next to each other. So that's why we can tell. When they're young male lions, a little bit more difficult. Not as easy, especially when they get to that age where they are now sort of sub-adult males, and they're close to their mom's size. Then it gets a little bit tough, but generally then you'll have a situation. Oh, these impalas are looking like they're quite nervous. No, they're just watching some other impalas. Thought for a second there they were staring as though there was something in the distance, but they stopped, and it must just be another impala that's moving. There we go, you can see them on the road. Now, these impalas, it's still a little bit dark to be shining lights at them, so we're not going to do that and blind them. We're just going to go past very slowly so that we don't spook them and we don't end up panicking them in any way. Now, this is also a good area for lions. We've seen them here quite regularly. They like this open clearing that we're in now. So I'm going to just check towards Sydney's Dam. They also like to head towards Sydney's Dam, and I know that yesterday the Nkahuma Pride left Simambili for the first time in about 2 weeks and went towards Sydney's Dam, so maybe they're hanging around here as well. So we're going to carry on checking. We're going to look around very, very carefully and do this big loop and make sure that these lions haven't left us. And while we do that, let's go across to Taylor and see if she's still on the tracks and where she's managed to find these tracks going.
Sadly, we haven't seen any more lion tracks, Tristan, since I had them veering off onto quarantine. But then again, that was also only one set of male tracks. But what I've done is I've gone down Weaver's Nest now, and I've gone onto Weaver's Nest Pangolin track. Now I'm back onto Twin Dams, heading back towards Vuyatilla Dam to see if I can pick up anything here. Now, earlier I mentioned to you that this is a live and interactive safari, so if you do have any questions for us, you're more than welcome to. Hashtag Safari Live is the only way to get hold of us, and you can ask us questions, send us pictures, anything you like, feed us information. If you see anything what's happening on the dam cam, it is much appreciated to know what's down there. So still no trick here, but this is a tricky spot going over now. We eat all the spider webs. Spiders, I really think that you're not doing a great job, because the amount of insects that I catch in my eyes, surely they could be going into their webs. So today I would like to be referred to as the one-eyed wonder, as I feel like I cannot see out of my left eye anymore, which is nice. Craig, you're going to have to look on the left for me. Did you respond, Craig? Oh, okay, just checking. Right, let's do searching. Right, so as I said a couple of minutes ago, I said that we were driving on Twin Dams, back towards the dam. So that is where we are going again, just in case you missed that. So off we shall head. Right, let's have a look around here. It's so thick though, this little spot. I don't think that the lions would be lying in this stuff. I think it's quite unpleasant. Long grass with a bit of dew on is never fun. But still no lion tracks just yet, so we'll have to just check around those open areas around the dam. I'm also just taking my time, because the other thing is that I don't know if Rexon is out of camp yet, and I think there are still guests in camp. Lots of baboon tracks going up and down here, but I think that was from yesterday. They don't look particularly fresh. Ooh, that's a good sign. I just had fresh buffalo dung. Okay, so what we're going to do, I just want to very quickly check this open area, and then we're going to come back down here, and I'm going to check Ingwe Alley, one of my favorite roads, and have a look around there, because that looked like where the tracks of the buffalo were going. And if there were any lions around here last night, I think it's actually the buffalo that we saw on foot yesterday afternoon. We managed to bump into the same buffalo twice, which was fun. So hopefully the Nkahumas have taken care of him for us, because he, well, no, I lied, that's nasty. He didn't really give us too much trouble. So I probably shouldn't be saying that. But if it is the Nkahumas that are back, I would love it if they could have a big meal, especially like a buffalo, because that means that they would stay on the property for more than about 36 seconds. So let's keep our fingers crossed for that. Right, let's have a look here. Hello Mita, you're only 8 years old, good morning, and you're wondering why doesn't my car have a windscreen? Well, we're quite lucky because we're not driving on the public roads, we're driving on private roads, and because we are searching for animals, I'm constantly doing this. If I had a windscreen, one of the main things, I'd actually knock it with my spotlight, and then also, because a windscreen has got a frame, it would obstruct my eyes to see very well, which is not good. We want to be able to see as clearly as we can, and it's nice to have the fresh open air all around you. But if you wanted to drive a car like this on the roads, you're quite correct. You'd have to have a big windscreen. We would have to have safety belts. And what else would we have to have? Side mirrors, which we are missing. We're lacking many things to the road for the public roads. But that's alright for us. We don't actually need it like that. We don't go very fast either out here. Right, so we're going to keep on searching here, hopefully for some big cats. Tristan seems to have taken a break from searching for the cats, and he's got an enormous elephant.
We do indeed. Now, it was the most beautiful picture because we had that rising sun and the elephant was walking just through the gap in the trees. You can actually just see his leg and his tail sticking out now, and a tree that is being pushed around and beaten up this morning. And it was beautiful when he was sitting in the middle of the road with that beautiful yellowy red backdrop, and he was silhouetted against it. It was quite something. But we're just going to try go forward because there are two of them, and it looks like two young males that are having a little bit of a game this morning. They're fighting with one another and pushing each other around, which is quite typical of young males. So I'm just coming up slowly just so that we don't disturb them too much, and we should get a nice sighting of them shortly. There we go. So you can see there's the two of them, the one young male on the right and then the other one on the left. Now they've got lots of energy, probably because it's a nice cool start to the day, and isn't that spectacular with them walking off into the sunrise? Very, very nice. Now I would estimate that both of these bulls are probably in their sort of mid-20s, and that's also why they're quite playful, is when they are a little bit younger, then they've got a lot of energy and they tend to try and push each other around, and it's more playful than anything else. There you go, you can see the two of them coming together. Oh, isn't that amazing with all the dust? Now we're going to have to just watch where we're going, because otherwise they're going to push each other into us. So you can see just the start of the engine has just broken up, but isn't that amazing with the dust? So those of you that like taking screenshots, this is an epic screenshot with that beautiful sunrise in the back, the dust of the two elephants fighting. Absolutely amazing. Now you two, just remember that we're behind you. Don't go pushing one another towards us. Isn't that an incredible shot? Those beautiful clouds, windswept clouds over the top, and these two young males play fighting. I think that's one of my favorite pictures since I've been at Safari Live. It was absolutely beautiful. Now these two are basically like naughty children. They're just having a little bit of fun together, and it's vitally important that they learn how to do this, because as they get older they are going to have to start competing for mating rights, and so they are going to have to fight with one another. And look at the posturing of the one on the left. You can see it's lifting its head, raising its ears out, trying to intimidate this other one. Laurie, you're wondering what age these elephants begin to mate. Well, it depends if we're talking about male or female, but since we're with males, let's start with them. Male elephants generally will only really get their first mating chance at about 30 years old. So it's a while until they mate. They've got to get big and strong so that they can be able to compete with the older males. And sometimes even in some systems you'll find that the really old males are the ones that are more successful when it comes to mating. So you'll get the 40 to 50 year olds, and they're the very successful males. Look at that posturing, isn't that amazing? He's trying to intimidate with size, and it's working. You can see the other one is backing off. Now don't come and play the same game with us. I'm just going to move back slightly just so that I give them some space, because they're just pushing each other around. We don't want to be right up against them in case one of them makes an accident. Now if we're talking about females, the females are already able to mate when they are 12 years old, so they can mate from quite early on. Hello, my boy. Okay, yes, I see you're a big elephant. Isn't this amazing? These two are giving us a real show this morning, and like I say, this is more playful than anything else. These young males will be basically joining together just for company, because as they've kind of left their herd structures, they still want that company and they crave that company because they've been used to it all their life. So for the first 12 to 15 years of their life, they've been surrounded by a herd. Now all of a sudden they've got to go off on their own, and so they often join with other males that are of a similar age, just to kind of have some company and to move around with another group and to feel safe. At the end of the day, these are not the biggest males out here, and so they need to feel safe. So well, Brian, it's an interesting question. You're asking whether they ram each other's heads in anger. So you can see here what they try to do is they try to line the heads up, and then they use the force of the head and the tusks to be able to push one another. Look at how this elephant is smelling us. Amazing. It's got its trunk up just looking to smell. And like I say, that backdrop of this light. No, don't be naughty. We're just going to, like I say, keep giving them a little bit of room. We don't want to ultimately be ending up with an elephant backside on our bonnet. But what they'll find is that they'll put their heads together and then they push one another. It's a test of strength. And in this case, when we're watching these two, this is more just practice. They're just trying to learn the techniques and practice and try and get it right. When it's a real fight and the males are competing for mating, then yes, they ram into each other with their heads and then they push one another around. But they don't go back and forth hitting each other, because the reason why is it's basically two massive objects that are going to collide, and there's a chance that both can do damage to one another. So they tend to hit each other's heads quite gently, and then they use their strength to push and their tusks to leverage. But I have seen incidents where an older male who was very old was taken on by a younger male, and that younger male pushed him and pushed him and pushed him, and they eventually this older male happened to go sideways. Oh, look at that, we're now going to sit down. It's all been too much. Isn't this amazing? Wow, what a special start to the day. And that older male unfortunately ended up going side on, and the younger male just started headbutting him and ramming his tusks into his abdomen, and unfortunately killed him. So it can get quite violent. Hey, enough now, not so close. So, typical young boys, it always goes like this. There will be a period of silence, and then all of a sudden they get a little bit too much, and they then come running down. Now, we aren't in that much danger. They're not focused their aggression at us in any way. It's more that they're playing, but the problem with them is that if they end up too close, then they can, by mistake, end up on our bonnet, like I said. So what I'm trying to do is just give them enough area and enough space that if they do come down the road with gravity, that I've got space to maneuver and space to get away from them and not have to worry too much. Stop it. So with these young bulls, you've got to stand your ground a little bit. So they're like naughty kids. You've got to teach them that we are not an object that they can push around and chase away. So you've got to stand with the younger males and hold your ground like we're doing now. And he's posturing to me that he's big and strong, but me standing my ground means that he's not sure now. He's not used to somebody standing up to him. You see the other male, when he does that, backs away from him, and then he comes in and chases. So if I had to back away, that would trigger him to keep coming at me and to cause a lot more trouble. So we have to stand our ground a little bit when he's focusing on us. If he's focusing on the other male, then I don't have to worry too much, and we can move back with ease, and he won't take that as a sign that he can chase me. But now when he's focused on me, the important thing is that I stay still and I don't let him dominate me, because otherwise in the future, as he gets bigger and bigger, he's going to do it more and more. Okay, enough. Stop it. And you can see slowly but surely he'll start to settle down. For now, he's still quite sort of dominating his posture. You can see his ears are out. He's watching us every now and then. He turns his head and puts his ears up and raises his head to try and intimidate me further. But if we just sit like this, eventually you'll find those ears are going to slow right down and his posture is going to change. You can see now he's starting to move off back to the other one, which is what we wanted. So there is a prime example of why you don't back up, because if I had kept moving and reversing, this elephant would have started to probably chase me more and more. Okay, yes, we know you're a big elephant. I can see that. No. Behave yourself. Addison, this is a very good question and very good thinking. You want to know why the smaller elephant has bigger tusks. Well, tusks is not an indication of age or size. It is a genetic thing. So when you have, it's like people. Some of us will have bigger teeth than others, even if we're the same age. And it's the same with them. They have a gene that basically allows for growth within those tusks. So the one has just got a gene that has bigger tusks than the other one, and so it's like us as people, one is going to be taller than the other one, and it's the exact same thing with the elephants. That's why one will have the bigger tusk even though he's younger. You'll find sometimes you can find 55-year-old elephants that are massive in size but very, very short stumpy tusks, and then you'll find other elephants that are 30, 40 and they've got massive tusks that come all the way down to the ground. So it's just a genetic thing, and it's just like people with having different eye colors or different size. Sid, this is an interesting question because I'm actually not quite sure what the oldest bull on record is in the Kruger Park system. Isn't that spectacular though, with that light in the background? Amazing. The oldest bull I would imagine here in the Kruger is probably around 55 to 60. No, stop it. So now look at his displacement behavior. He's put a branch in his mouth, pretending like he's eating, but he's not. He's busy watching me, and so he's trying to kind of lure me into a false sense that he's no longer interested. You can see he didn't even eat the branch. He eventually just dropped the branch between his legs there. You can see he's not eating it at all. All the leaves are dropping out, and the branch is at his feet. So he's pretending like he's feeding, but he's actually not. He's just using this as an excuse to be close to us and to watch us. Now let's see if he actually eats it this time. Sometimes it's quite funny when they do this. They break a branch and they're actually not focused on what they're eating, and they end up taking a tree that's not very tasty at all, and they just spit it out. It's quite funny actually. But isn't that amazing? So to answer your question, I would say 55 to 60, somewhere in that range, but I'm actually not 100% sure. I don't think there is a record of the oldest bull in Kruger. I'm just thinking about all the big tuskers that we had, that some of them died of old age. Enough. No, stop it now. So the problem is that I wouldn't have moved had there not been this other male, but now that the other male's here, if they start fighting again, they're right on top of me. So I'm just going back slightly just to give me some space if they do start fighting, that I can roll back and get out of here without any damage to us. So let's just go back a little bit, but you can see this male's having a beautiful dust bath. Look at that. Isn't that amazing? The dust with that backlighting is spectacular. Absolutely incredible. Look at it all falling off his face. Like I say, if you're into screenshots and you like taking screenshots, this is a sighting for you for sure. That is just seriously spectacular. Look at the pinks that are starting to form in the clouds now above them, as well as that sun is coming over the horizon. Isn't that amazing? I don't think there is a better way to start the day than that. That is absolutely incredible, and especially with all this dust that they are making on the road around their feet. It almost looks like they're standing in a smoky bowl with this pink clouds enveloping them from the back. It is really quite something. Michael, that's a very good question. You're asking if either of these bulls are in must. Now, they're not. You can see that neither of them are leaking from their temporal glands or are leaking from their penile sheaths onto the back of their legs. Now, the back of the legs on the inside would be a very dark, rich black color, almost like the color of asphalt or tar, and neither of them have that, and neither of them are secreting from the glands just between the eyes and the ears. So, no, neither of these are in must. They're probably both just playful this morning. It's just a thing that they're together. The weather is quite cool this morning, so it's just perfect conditions to be a playful elephant, that's all. And so it's nothing to do with must, and they're not being aggressive. It's just more playful than anything else. Isn't that amazing? Look at the dust falling off his face. Yo, this is absolutely incredible. What an amazing sighting. Now, see how the other one is smelling him? So they're smelling one another the whole time. You can see that this is a male now for sure, if you were a little bit confused earlier as to why it's a male. But he's now letting one that's been standing off from us. Tracy, was an interesting one in that you're asking whether these guys mark territory like cats do. No, they don't. They don't have specific scent marking areas. What you will find though is the reason for that is because they're not nearly as territorial as what a cat is. You'll find elephants will have what's called a home range, so they move around in massive distances, but it's very loose, and so it's according to the amount of food and water that is in the area. That is what they're trying to utilize. So they do not have a set territory like a cat. That's why a cat marks, is to try and set boundaries to other cats to say, no, you may not come in here. Whereas with elephants, they don't have that problem. They know that if another male comes in, it's not a stress, because if they find a herd that is with a female that is receptive, then they will compete for that female, and they'll try and then be able to fight with one another over that. So they're not concerned in terms of protecting a boundary. So elephants actually don't scent mark. You'll find though when the males are in must, then they dribble this foul smelling urine, and that's a signal to these young bulls that we see here that there is a big dominant male around that is in a heightened level of testosterone, and that he wants to now mate, and he's actively searching out females to mate with. And so that's when you'll find a situation that these younger males will realize that there's a scent that's been left by a not a territorial male, but a big dominant male, and they will then back off out of that area. So it's not really scent marking all the time, it's just when they are actively searching out females to mate with. In terms of females though, they will not scent mark at all. They just defecate and urinate wherever they go. It's not about scent marking for them. Now you might be hearing in the distance a very hollow woody sound, and those are our button quails that are calling. So it's a tiny little bird, and it sort of goes very well hand in hand with these elephants. You've got this massive, largest land mammal right here in front of us, and then the soundtrack to it is a tiny little button quail that is probably no bigger than the size of my fist. So it really is nice contrast between the two of them. You can see now, I think the game is over, because both bulls are now feeding. They've stopped pushing one another around. The other bull's gone off to my right, and he's still feeding, the cheeky one. And then we've got this little guy in front of us who's very calm. He's much calmer than the other one. He's not nearly as aggressive, or as cocky is probably the right word. So he's not trying to be as showy and trying to dominate us nearly as much. So he's a very nice elephant, this. Alright, so we're going to sit and we're going to enjoy this spectacle, because it is a spectacle. Like I say, these clouds and this color in the sky is really quite something. And while we do that, I think let's go across to Taylor, see how her lion search is going, now that we've been a bit distracted and are not helping her anymore.
Tristan, at least you have been distracted by some form of an animal. We have not seen one thing yet this morning. I haven't even got lion tracks anymore. So basically I came back around, I did a loop, I checked around Wilderness Dam, and then I came back, checked a little bit more of Quarantine. We are on Rebecca's Road, so we did pop past the hyena den because it's right opposite Rebecca's Road, but sadly it was not active this morning. Maybe a little bit later, or perhaps we're a little bit too late, you never know. So we're just on at Rebecca's at the moment, heading around, and I'm confused because I haven't seen any more lion tracks. The last ones that I had were on Quarantine. So maybe when Tristan is finished looking at the elephants, he can just check the most southern road of Quarantine, and then hopefully something will pop up. I think what we're going to do is we're going to start making our way south now towards Cheetah Plains. That's where we're going to go today. Maybe we see... Oh, wow. Before we go anywhere, we're going to just have a quick look from here at this beautiful high point. And if you listen very carefully, you may even be able to hear the hurricane button quails that Tristan was talking about. Well, they've just stopped calling. But isn't that a beautiful sight? As the sun is between the first row of clouds and the top of the trees. That is so beautiful. We are so lucky to see sunrises and sunsets like we do. I don't think I've ever quite seen any sunsets and sunrises that are as pretty. Now, as we drive along, like I said, we're going to slowly start making our way towards Cheetah Plains now. We'll let Tristan carry on with the Leons. They've given me the slip. It's fine. Now, Jared, Rebecca, please have that question. Went in one ear and I remember it, and something booted out the other. So Jared, you're wondering what is my favorite thing about early morning drives. I think it's got to be the smells that you get off of the grasses, as you know, sort of with the dew. It's a divine smell. It's something between the smell of tea. Now it sounds bizarre, but this is what I smell. Tea, freshly cut lucerne. If you've ever been in a barn where they've just brought in all the new bales of lucerne, and every now and then you get the smell of musk bull too, which is quite pleasant. It's not, but everything else is quite nice. And then the light, the golden light that you've been seeing Tristan on the elephants. It just, first thing in the morning, everything feels so fresh. And it's such a great way to start the day by getting up even before the sun gets up. And that's something I've always done as a kid with my dad. My dad, I suppose that's where I get my insomnia tendencies from. But we were always up, and I was always up early for school, and we'd often sit and watch the sunrise. So I love it. But doing it in the city is one thing. Being able to sit out in the bush every single day and see that, you never get bored of it. You can't get bored of it. And I don't think a safari would be a safari, or it wouldn't be a true African experience without a sunrise or a sunset. But of course, that's just what makes Africa African for me. I know you get sunrises and sunsets all over the world, but there are very few places that look like this. Really spoiled, really privileged to do this every single day. And the sounds, Jared, as well, of course. The dawn chorus is unbelievable, though I haven't heard it just yet. And it's a pity that those hurricane quails decided that they were going to stop singing for a bit. But I'm sure we'll hear them when we get to Cheetah Plains. No doubt about that. Right, a bit of mist in the air today. It's lovely. I'm just going to keep checking over here. There's not really many tracks at the moment. I'm just seeing people of tracks, and I suspect that's from the last couple of bushwalks that we've done. They don't look particularly fresh. Woo! Off we go. Let's see, what is going to be our first animal today? We did see those impala, but they were in the dark, so I don't think we can count them. Right, every now and then I may need to just wipe my eye, as it is not very happy that it had a bug in it so early. I was just about to show you my first bird, and then it flew away. It was a laughing dove. I'm not laughing about its antics this morning, but let's go across to Tristan and find out his favorite thing about early morning safaris.
Well, Taylor, I suppose when you're sitting like this with two elephants and a glowing sunrise in the back, that would be probably one of my favorite things. But Jared, I think for me the thing about a sunrise is it's just the start of a new day. So it's a new beginning. It's this kind of darkness of the night is slowly unveiled, and you slowly start to see new things as the light touches places. And here in the bush, probably the favorite thing for me is that you go out in the mornings with this sort of renewed sense of purpose. The day before, you've searched the whole area, you know what's around you, you know what is there, whereas in the mornings, you don't know. You know that it's a blank canvas and you could find anything that morning. And it's exactly like this morning, we followed these tracks for these these lions. Then we ended up bumping into these elephants. Then you have that beautiful sort of rising golden light that comes over, and it's just a sort of start to the day and a freshness and a new beginning that really makes me appreciate early mornings. Now, our 2 male elephants have been very sedate since you've been gone. From the frantic start that we had this morning, you can see that they are now just feeding on either side of the road. But I don't think it will last for too long. It's going to just take one crossing the road towards the other one, and I think the games will start again. So that's why we're just hanging around a little bit, just to check and see what's going on and see how they get on, and if they are going to just carry on feeding or if the games will continue. Now, I would imagine that both of these elephants are slowly going to make their way towards Sydney's Dam. Sydney's Dam is right behind us, and they're facing in that direction. So they're going to feed now while it's nice and cool, and then as it starts to warm up, because I think today is going to be a very warm day, they're going to then make their way towards water, where they'll have a good drink this morning, and then they'll carry off and amble off into the bush to go and feed. Now, you can see our naughty, cheeky male is there feeding away, and it's very different to what we saw just now when he was doing sort of shenanigans and he had his ears raised and he was pulling leaves off the tree. He wasn't really eating them with gusto, whereas now you can see he's being very particular about what he eats. He's checking each little bit of grass, and you see how he's just eating the tops of the grass. So he's only eating the seeds that are coming out, because that is where the most nutrition is at the moment. He's just dropping the stalks down, and then he's also going to be picking up any little bit of forbs. So it means now that he's no longer worried about us. He's content to be feeding. You can see he's even turned his back towards us, which means that he knows that we aren't a threat. And us standing our ground and spending time with him, as now he's relaxed and knows that we're not anything to worry about, which is good. Now the other male is also just coming up on our left-hand side now. He's just starting to appear. There he is. And still a spectacular sky in the background. It is getting a little bit brighter now, but he's just slowly coming out, and you can see he's doing the exact same thing. He's busy feeding off the grass and shoving it in trunkload by trunkload, and all he's eating is the tops. You'll see most of that will drop out. He's actually not going to consume too much of the stalk area. There we go. There it all goes. You can see he's just literally taken the tops off, and that's all he's eating. Now, what he's actually feeding on at the moment is mostly panicum. Now, panicum is a type of grass which I'll show you when we leave these elephants, and it has a very sticky residue around the seeds, and it's very, very sweet tasting. And Jamie is one of our other presenters, for those of you who don't know her. She has a particular love for panicum. See her always eating it when she's on bushwalk, so it is very tasty stuff, and it's no wonder the Ellies go after it. But this guy is an absolute gentleman. He's very, very relaxed. We've got none of the same signs that we saw from that other male. You can see he's not raising his head at us. He's not pulling his ears out. He's just relaxed and feeding. And it's probably because he's the more submissive of the two. He's the one that's kind of got pushed around, and so he's just a little bit more sedate and is not going to be nearly as aggressive because he was dominated by that other male. Now the other male seems to be going off and moving through the thickets. He's just gone into that area there, and he seems to be now on his own little mission altogether. But that was an absolutely spectacular start to the day. Dave and I were just talking about it. It couldn't have gone any better, and to have them coming down the road with the dust exploding everywhere, absolutely phenomenal. And it's still pretty special to see with that light coming through the trees. And I know Taylor said the early morning golden light, and exactly that. It is quite beautiful when you have this morning golden light. Right, so both of these elephants are now separating and going different ways. So I think we're going to do the same and part ways with them as well, and carry on and try and see if we can carry on with this lion search and check if we can find any more signs of them. So far there's been nothing coming up onto this northern boundary, which is great news for us. So I think let's carry on and see what is out there. But thank you, boys. That was absolutely amazing. I loved every minute with you guys. Ah, Taylor, you have found something very nice. Right, so we're going to go across to Taylor, because she has managed to find a ground hornbill, one of my favorite birds, in a tree.
Well, Tristan, then I can tell you that this sighting would give you goosebumps because it is a sight that we haven't seen for a while. A silhouetted ground hornbill sitting in a tree, which I think is a very, very special thing to see. Now, Craig and I managed to spot two. They were actually about to cross Gowrie Main and enter Little Gowrie. And then they obviously, I think they were a bit frightened by us coming down the road. You know what hornbills are like, and particularly the southern ground hornbills. They're not the fondest of the cars. They seem to be one of the more shy birds that we get out here. But isn't that an absolutely beautiful scene? So, like I said, we only saw two, but it could be that family of four that we actually on a regular basis see around here. And now, Mr. Bird, if you could understand me, please could you do me one favor and let out your beautiful call as you sit up in that tree? That would really, really, really make my day today. We're going to have to start teaching Craig the bird calls. It always reminds me of marimba drums, though. That I can't even do it. Should we play it? Let's play it. You let that certain call of southern ground hornbill. Where do I need to go now? I suppose going into my bird app would be a good idea. Hello, beautiful. Now I wish the other one would also fly on up so that we can have a look at two silhouetted hornbills. Right, are you ready? Isn't that beautiful? Now, I don't feel too bad about playing that call because that bird is very, very far away. We parked at quite a distance just to make sure that we give it enough room so that it doesn't feel frightened by our presence. And as we sit at this distance, it's quite happy to just perch itself on the tree. And that's what hornbills would do, and particularly the southern ground hornbills. As their name suggests, they predominantly move around on the ground. They are active hunters, constantly moving through long grass, trying to flush out snakes and rats and chameleons, you name it, even bird chicks they will feast on. But when they do feel a little bit timid, and as though they need to get off of the ground, they are well capable of flying too. Massive wingspan, which will take them straight up to the top of a tree, and in this case a marula tree, which is making a nice sheltered spot. That is gorgeous, Craig. And that's what's so exciting about going on safari. You really, 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 really don't understand how amazing it is to see something like this. And obviously we go out every single day hoping that we're going to see a particular animal, and I'm always up for seeing ground hornbills. Oh, no, so I know a couple of you are confused about thinking that was the bird they called. No, I said that I was going to open my app and play the call for you, so that didn't come from the bird. Otherwise we would have seen them tilting or sort of dropping their heads to the floor and calling. So that was me just playing the beautiful call off of my bird app. It was just a sound that I haven't heard for a long time, and I thought that all of you might like to hear it too. But who knows? We may get lucky. Maybe one of these hornbills, as it preens itself, is going to very, very kindly do us a beautiful call. Now, when they're silhouetted like this, it's almost impossible to tell if it's a boy or a girl. Let's see if it's going to fly. All I can hear at the moment are the caracane quails calling in the very, very far distance. Craig, you didn't see where the other one landed, did you? I think it's just landed out of view. But the rest of them could already be moving on the ground. And that's what's so amazing about hornbills, is even though there's a very strong bond between the family groups, is that even when they're feeding, you'll notice there's often a big gap sort of between the foraging spaces. And I suppose that's actually a good tactic to have, because if one sort of flushes something else, they almost walk in a line as if they were doing an army patrol. And if somebody flushes something out and it runs to the left or right, there's always another hornbill there waiting to snatch it up. Oh, listen very carefully. Now, unfortunately, there is a car racing along the road. Let's hope it doesn't startle the bird. I'm also now going to have to very quickly reposition so that this car can go past me. To, of course, just hear it calling. Let's just pull off over here. And hopefully we won't be bothered by any more cars. Just listen, because it's calling a full call now. I'll answer the questions in a moment. Isn't this absolutely incredible? Now, some of you are wondering, why on earth are we sitting and watching this bird and sitting so quietly? It's just a bird. But this is one of the most endangered birds that we have in this area, if not the most endangered bird that we see around here. There aren't very many pairs of them left. So to be able to sit and watch something like this is really, really special. It's really not a common occurrence. So that looks like the male now. that is doing the calling, and they're most of the time they're the ones that initiate the call. But he is beautiful. Now, Thad, you were wondering if hornbills, the southern ground hornbills in particular, are monogamous. They are indeed, but they're also cooperative breeders. So what that means is that there is a dominant pair, one male, one female, that do all the mating. And they can live into big family groups. I think the biggest group I've seen, there was 6 individuals, and then plus a chick, so there were 7. So the dominant pair breeds and lays 2 eggs. Normally only one of those eggs will survive, and the rest of the birds that are in that family group will help raise that chick until adulthood. So they aren't breeding, which I think is really, really quite amazing. That was spectacular, if not the best southern ground hornbill sighting I've had in my life. Wow. Lady Starfire, now you're wondering, of course, if hornbills build nests in trees. They do indeed. They use hollow and natural cavities. So typically here, we actually see them utilizing big marula trees that have been hollowed out by termites or whatever it may be, and they'll make their nests inside. They may lie with a bit of sticks and leaves, but they typically construct a massive nest, for instance, like the Wahlberg's eagles will. That was so cool. I hope you all enjoyed that as much as I did. Like I said, I mean, I've had great sightings of hornbills before where they've, caught chameleons and chased snakes out, and that's been very exciting. But to sit with a scene like that, a silhouetted hornbill in a tree, calling, starting off very, very softly and then building into something quite amazing, and then even being able to see those sort of vocal sacs as they will amplify the sound is really impressive. Now, Real Jill, you're wondering if these birds are carnivores. They are indeed. They eat an abundance of different things. They scavenge. So if they find a carcass, a buffalo carcass or whatever it may be, and there's no predators on it, they will actually pick at that. They'll eat chameleons, snakes, rodents, chicks. They eat so many different things. They are savage, but also beautiful at the same time, and graceful. Look at those massive, robust beaks. Now, Steve from London, you're wondering who would eat something like a hornbill. Well, out here, anything is really possible. A young lion may chase around a hornbill, an adult may chase around a hornbill. A leopard, a cheetah, hyena, even something like a serval, though I think a serval would be biting off a bit more than it could chew, trying to take down one of these birds. But I'd be careful if I was a predator, because if you were to get on the wrong end of that beak, I can only imagine that would be very sore. I reckon if you had to put your finger in a hornbill's mouth, that you could potentially lose it. I don't know what anybody else thinks, but I have actually seen them at a rehabilitation center before, and when you get to stand and look at them face to face, you realize how massive they actually are. This is so cool. Preening himself. Now I've got the sneezes. I'm going to sneeze a couple more times. Apologies for that, and excuse me. As you've seen with Tristan and I, hay fever at the moment is 150% at the moment. My goodness. Lovely. Well, I think what we're going to do now is I'd like to go a little bit further down the road. Carl, now you're wondering if I can do the ground hornbill call myself. I tried earlier and then, excuse me, I failed miserably. So I'm not going to try and do it again, unfortunately. I think I shall save myself the embarrassment. It's not that great. So what we're going to do now is we're going to keep going. We want to check Twin Dams very quickly to see if the royal family haven't crossed back in. But James seems to have set up his tent and he's ready to go. I heard him say something about rubber gloves. Let's go find out what he's planning on doing.
Good morning and welcome to the tent once more. I must say it's very pleasant to be back in here. My name is James Henry, in case you're wondering, and we are as live and interactive as Tristan and Taylor are here from the tent. Hashtag Safari Live is how you get hold of us. I'm not sure that I've ever heard a ground hornbill make the sound but maybe they, on Cheetah Plains, call differently from the way that I've heard them do it before. Now, during the course of this morning's tent segment, we are going to be donning some rubber gloves, and we are going to slowly dissect this owl. Now, this owl was an unfortunate victim of a road accident, I think just outside the gate, which is obviously very sad, but provides us with an opportunity. It is a spotted eagle owl, and I'm just going to hold it up for you. He's a beautiful specimen. He is starting to smell a little bit rough at this stage, but just to give you an idea of his size, and the reason I'm using gloves, of course, is just so that I don't get sort of muck on my hands. Now, if you are a sensitive viewer, I'm sorry about this, but I know it's a little bit disgusting. I find it quite macabre myself, but it's a really good opportunity to have a look closely at a bird like this, or at a creature that we wouldn't normally get to examine in this sort of detail. So if you are a sensitive viewer, I'm sorry. I will warn you if I'm going to do anything foul. I'll do most of that while we're off air, and then I'll show you the bits and pieces that we find when you come back to me. So don't worry, you're not going to have to watch the entire surgical dissection of this hapless creature. But we need to do it before he becomes too stiff. Now, you may ask yourself, why on earth does this owl have a left wing shorter than a right wing? And the answer would be because, well, Megan has already sampled some of his feathers, but that's okay. Look at this astounding appendage. Let me turn it so that it faces the light nicely. Now, it's often very difficult for me to picture how the wing feathers fall, and this is how they sit together. These are the primaries. And when the bird is flying, obviously they're airtight. They're completely airtight. And they slot into each other completely perfectly, like I've got it indicated there. And then, of course, the bird can open them up and allow air to go through them, which, of course, reduces lift. It allows, certainly a bird like this, to fly much more quietly, and allows it, obviously, to slow down and then land. And then this magnificent appendage here allows the bird to make the most minor adjustments. It's called an aileron. Well, that's what it's called on an aeroplane. And it allows the bird to make the most minor adjustments just to reduce or increase the drag over the top of the wing. Now, the next time you're in an aeroplane, if you've ever been in an aeroplane or if you're likely to go in one, try and get a seat in the middle of the plane, stick your head out and watch. You'll see minor adjustments always. Normally, I think they're on the back of the aeroplane's wing, if I'm not mistaken. But you'll see these minor adjustments going on all the time. You'll just feel a very slight movement of the plane as it goes. And that's what this amazing appendage is for there. So we'll have a look at, well, a slightly greater look at that, or a look at it in greater detail slightly later. And for now, I'm now going to cut it up, or start to cut it up, and while I do that, let's head across to Tristan, who has got a polly. Who wants a cracker?
We do, James. We have a beautiful little polly, but I don't know if it wants a cracker, like Rebecca has just asked me. But you can see there, oh, it's just flown away, but there was a brown-headed parrot that was there, and they obviously have a nest inside there because there was another one that went inside the top of that tree, and so I reckon they have a nest. I'm going to keep an eye out and see what goes on there. Now, the reason why we were stopped here is not actually because of the parrots, but because of these beautiful tracks that are coming up the road in this morning golden light. So what you see here are some beautiful sets of lion footprints. So I'm going to get out and show you, because you were asking me the differences between the male and female. So let me show you exactly what we've got. Right, now if you have a look here, let me get my shadow out the way, at this one over there, let me move my foot. that is the track for the male. Look at how big it is. You can see the size of the toes are really, really very, very large. And if I put my hand over it, it's pretty much the size of my hand. So that is for one of the Birmingham males. It's also got, like I say, very wide, big toes. If we come forward a little bit, you can see here is the track for the female. So much, much smaller in comparison to my hand. You can see the toes are slightly smaller as well. And because of this weight difference between the two, you can see that that track is not nearly as splayed out. So because the soil is quite soft, the male's track has been pushed out under all the weight that he has, whereas the female is a little bit lighter, so hers is a lot more neat, and you can actually make out the edges a lot better. Now, we know that these are fresh. One, because we know somebody saw them on the dam cam at around 1:45 this morning. But other than that, it's on top of all the nocturnal creatures. So there are any hyenas that have walked here, it's on top of that. Up in front there, which you might not be able to see because it will be a bit close to the car, is a Jenner track that it's over the top of the Jenner track as well. I don't know if you can see it, Davy. It's this one here. Yeah, so I thought you might battle with that one. So we know it's on top of that, so we know that these are really quite fresh. And the tracks that we found to start off this morning are on the other side of where these tracks are. So those are the fresher tracks, which means I'm going to head back to that area and try and see if we can start following and see if we can actually find these cats. But really, really good to see their tracks again. It's been a while since we've had fresh lion tracks in the area, so I'm really quite excited to see if I can find them. Dave, are you excited?
Yes.
Oh, excellent. It's always good when we're all excited. Now, I think that because the sun has come up, that these lions will be up and moving, but now that the sun has come up, I think they're going to find somewhere just to rest and lie down. Well, Tad, you wanted to see the lion tracks, so there we go. I hope you enjoyed them. You can see, look at them now as we go up the road. You can see they really are quite large, and it actually looks like one of them lay down in front there. You can see the depressions in the sand. Either that or they turn to scent mark on the edge, which is probably what's happened, because that's the male track that we see, those big paw prints through the soft sand. That's his, and he maybe just went on the edge here, which is what lions like to do. I'll just check now when we get here, but it looks like he went there and then just scent marked a little bit and has then carried up the road. Now, if these tracks, had I not known that they were at the dam cam, we would also know that they're quite fresh, because this road was freshly graded yesterday, which, when I say graded, they basically smoothed out the surface of the road, and so there were no tracks yesterday at all, which means that we would have known this morning that they were from last night. Right. We're going to carry on. We're going to try and see if we can find these lions. I'm hoping that we will. I've checked the northern boundary. They haven't gone that way, so they hopefully are still on Djuma. And while we check around for these lions, let's go across to Miss McCurdy, all the way on Cheetah Plains.
Hi, everybody. So nice to be back with you. Obviously, I'm not Miss McCurdy, am I? Right, the first thing I'm going to show you is what we often refer to, and I think is often almost impossible to imagine, and that is the cloacal opening. Now, if we look over there, that is the cloaca of this bird. Now, through that opening, it mates, it defecates, and urinates. So everything comes out of that one opening. So when a bird is mating, that opening will be closed against the other opening, whether it's male or female, and I do not know whether this bird is male or female, and I'm not sure I will be able to tell. No doubt somebody a lot more competent at dissection, like a vet, for example, would be able to cut it open, and I'm sure we'd be able to see, and I will try and do this, we'll be able to see the internal gonads inside the bird here, and so we should be able to find ovaries, or what I suppose would qualify as bird testicles, just inside. So I'll chop that open and we'll have a look there. Now, I think that is really rather amazing. I've never seen that before. I've always wondered what it looked like and how it works, but there it is. But you can imagine now, I'm sure you've all seen birds attempting to mate with each other. It's really, it looks like an awkward process, because this bird will sort of, let's pretend this is the male, he would have had to jump on top of the female, and somehow her tail has to move out of the way, and the two openings have to come together for fertilization to take place. And I just think it's the most interestingly inconvenient way to have to reproduce. Anyway, it seems to be very effective. More than, 2,500 species of birds worldwide. So clearly, mating amongst the birds is not a particularly difficult activity. So that's the first thing. Then as Rebecca has just said into my ear, she said, birds do it. And what she means, of course, she's referring to that wonderful song, birds do it, bees do it, even educated fleas do it. Let's do it. Let's fall in love. Wonderful. Now, the other thing we're going to look at quickly in this particular segment is the ears, which I'm not sure I can find. But we often think of the ears of the owl as being there. Those are not the ears, those are just tufts. The ears are somewhere in here. And what I will do is start to remove the feathers from around this area and see if we can't find the ear opening, because the ear opening on owls is supposed to be offset. In other words, the right ear is either higher or lower than the left ear, and what that does is allows the bird to judge distance using only its ears. But I can't find it just yet. I'll have to pull these feathers out. I don't want you to have to witness that because it can look a bit grim. I will find the ears somewhere in the skull. Here it is. Here's the ear opening. I think. No, it's not. It's just a join in the skull. But I will find the ear. Oh, maybe that's it. Hang on a second. Starting to smell a bit ripe, isn't it, dear? Mm-hmm. There we go. There's the ear on the one side. Right. And let's see. That's now just sort of above the eye. Let's see if we can find the one on the other side. And I must just once again say to those of you who are a bit sensitive about things like this, it's just, I know that it's pretty grim, but it's very interesting stuff. Right, there's the other one. It's much bigger. And if you look, I'm going to hold him up now. I'm going to put my fingers in his ears. This is astounding. So there's the right ear where my right index finger is, and there's the left ear. And you can see the right ear much higher up than the left. Can you see that? I think that's really quite remarkable. Ooh. Oh, that's a little peaky. M. Lewis, you're wondering why this is called an eagle owl and not just an owl. It's simply because he's huge. They're just the biggest owls, and that's why they're called eagle owls. They're not substantially different from the smaller owls. They're the same family. They're not related to eagles at all. They're just able. They've got these huge talons, and so they look a little bit like eagles' talons, and that's why they're called eagle owls. But it's the big ones that are called eagle owls. Now, this foot. There are three types of foot that an owl or a bird can have. The one is with three toes facing forward and one back. The other is with two back and two forward. And then the last one is what this bird has. I think this is what this bird has. In fact, it definitely does. This is a situation where the bird has got the third digit is able to go forward. You can see that. It looks almost like an eagle's claw, or it can go all the way back, and it looks a little bit like a woodpecker's claw now, zygodactyl. And this one can clearly do both. So the third joint can move both ways. But you can see these vicious talons, which would have been used to kill, well, rats and mice and gerbils and other rodents that it would find around here, maybe even something up to the size of a squirrel, and quite possibly the odd reptile. Except, of course, they are nocturnal, and very few reptiles hang about at night, except some of the snakes. Right. I'm going to I'll keep on with my exploration. I'm probably going to get a clothes peg to put over my nose. While I do that, Tristan is still looking for the lions.
Well, James, you are a lot braver than I am, because I reckon that owl is going to not be smelling very good. When you open that stomach, it's going to be quite something when you get in there. Now, I also need to apologize to James, because I just told him that I just said that we're going to go to Taylor and we went to James. Now, James, I am sorry, but you are of the same height. Maybe not the same amount of hair, but definitely of the same height, and so that's why I've confused the two of you. I do apologize profusely. I'm so sorry. Now, at least James is in the tent, so he will get my apology. I hope he takes it as a very sincere one. Now, I know James was talking about ears and of the owl, and was just got us thinking about the lions and in terms of how they find each other. And I was actually saying to Dave this morning that it's very interesting, because we didn't actually hear these lions last night. Now, they've walked right past the camp, and so we should have, in theory, heard them roaring quite easily and excessively. But what we had is we had two lions here that look like a mating pair. Now, when there's a mating pair, very often they are very quiet, and the reason for this is because the males know that if they call, they're going to attract the attention of maybe one of the other coalition members, and then there's going to be competition for mating, which is not ideal. If you're a lion, you don't want any competition. If you're mating with a female, you want your brothers to stay away as much as possible. Dave, do the tracks go down there? Sorry, I'm getting a bit distracted here. No tracks there. Okay. And so they don't want to vocalize to be able to then attract the attention of the brothers. But it's interesting, because when they do call, you know, the owls have these ears that they're able to hear one another, but with lions, their sense of hearing is just so much better and so amazing that they all hear each other from kilometers away. It's also because the lion produces an incredible sound. The male lion's roar will carry easily for another lion, if conditions are right, between 7 and 10 kilometers. So that is a long way away that they can hear one another, and it absolutely baffles me that, imagine trying to communicate over that distance without a telephone. It would be impossible for humans, and the fact that they are able to do it really astounds me. So it's quite something that lions are able to call over such a sort of wide range. It really is very interesting. Now, I'm just trying to see these tracks. It's actually really difficult. The angle of the light is not helping us with tracks at all. Every now and then I can just see some toes in the sand, and so I'm just trying to follow along and see where they go. I reckon that they're going to turn towards Impala Plains and then maybe even onto Arathusa. That's my... No, where are you? There you are. So it looks like they're still going down the road. One, but these don't look that fresh. Maybe these are other tracks, and now I've just gotten on the same ones because I followed them all the way along. So I just want to make 100% sure. We're coming up to a little junction now of roads, and that'll be the best place to check. It will be to see where they've gone. Now, it could be that one of the other game drive vehicles, while I was with the elephants, and has followed up here and has driven over the tracks, and that's why I'm battling to see them. But I do want to just check at this junction to see where they go. Now, hopefully these lions, if they are still here, are lying somewhere in a decent position, because the grass where we are now is so long that if they do lie down here, no chance. They're going to, if they go flat, I'm not going to be able to see them, in which case I would have to just walk until they bumped into them, but it's going to be a lot more difficult if that is the case. So I'm hoping that they are somewhere close by. Sorry, there was an update on the radio about the Nkuhumas, but I didn't hear exactly where. Sorry, last station, can you just repeat that message? Okay, copy that, thank you very much. So it was just an update that the Nkuhumas are on Biffel's Hook, and they're slowly coming southwards, which is quite good. Right, now we're going to carry on. We're going to see if we can find these tracks again, and while we do that, let's go across to the other Taylor, the real Taylor, on Cheetah Plains.
Well, Rebecca, I just need to let you know I'm hearing you through Craig's comms. For some bizarre reason, I've got Game Drive comms, but I cannot hear Final Control, but that's okay. We are surrounded by elephants. Hello, naughties. But young elephants, there are 3 youngsters here. And this one seems to be a little girl. But there are also 2 young males that are playing around and having, well, a grand old time. And now, we've been surrounded by elephants all morning. First you had them with Tristan, and now you have them with us. And they are very excited today. It's actually quite funny to watch them. And it's typical to see this with elephants of this age. I'd reckon that this lot is anywhere between about 4 and 8 years old, maybe 4 and 10 years old, give or take a little bit. They're relatively big. They're not standing right next to mom anymore. They feel comfortable enough to move away. But they are very, very funny characters. And there's an entire herd here. They're all just hiding in the bushes at the moment. Still trying to work out which way they've come from, but hopefully they come back towards the road. So like I said, Rebecca, I can't hear anything that you're saying at the moment. I have no idea why this is the case. But while you watch these elephants, let me search my earpiece to see if I can find something as to why it would not be working. But this is absolutely incredible. Morning golden light. Now come on, little elephant, you need to move about 10 paces to the left, please, so we can see you in the lovely light like Tristan and compete with the sighting that he had earlier. And it's always funny, elephants don't seem to mind the spider webs at all, because this one at the moment is walking through, I think, one of the orb spider's webs. Nope, but thank you for moving out into the lovely golden grass. Are we going back to channel 3? Let's go back to channel 3. We're having a couple of comms issues here, and let's see if this helps us out now, when Rebecca talks to us. Yes, I can hear you now. Craigie, let's reposition. There we go. I can hear Rebecca now. That's great. We shall see how long it lasts. Oh, no, elephants. That's ridiculous. Come back here. There we go. There's one just looking at us. There we go, as I swat some flies away. Now, unfortunately, this herd of elephants seems to be moving in the complete opposite direction. So we are going to lose view of them now, as they are going north, which is a pity. I was really hoping that they were coming here. It's a big herd too. There must be at least 30 of them. I can just hear all the little ones moving off into the distance. Now, we've been chatting quite a bit about the various senses with the different animals. You've been having a nice close inspection with James, which is great, with that owl. And, well, seeing as though we're sitting with elephants, we might as well have a chat about the infrasounds. Now, elephants are absolutely incredible, and I think that they have mastered communication, in my opinion. And hopefully we'll find some more to have a look at. And it's really amazing. If you've ever sat with, and you've had the opportunity to come on a safari and sit with a herd of elephants, my goodness, between the radio comms and this earpiece today, they're going to go into the fire when we get back to camp. I shall use it to boil myself a cup of coffee. Anyways, so when you're sitting in a herd of elephants, you'll see they're feeding, doing all their thing, a little bit spread out, not always standing in a big group, and all of a sudden you'll hear this very low rumbling sound, and if you're close enough you can actually feel it. Now that's one of the few sounds of an elephant that we can hear, and that's normally the matriarch giving off a sign to say to everybody, right, everybody, regroup, let's get moving, we're going this way. And then slowly but surely you'll see everybody come together and move off in the direction that the matriarch has stated that they need to go. So most of the communication is done via infrasounds, which is a very low frequencies that we cannot hear, that travel down into the earth. And essentially an elephant will pick up those vibrations from their feet, moving up into their bodies, where they can then, of course, translate to exactly what is being said. But they say that elephants can communicate with each other for up to 20 kilometers in distance, which is massive and is very important too for elephants to be able to communicate with each other at such long distances, especially in times when there's not a lot of food around. You can imagine if there's another herd up ahead, they can feed each other information saying there's no water here, the stream has dried up, the grass is gone, the marulas are not fruiting in here, go somewhere else. They're communicating and feeding each other all these types of informations. Can we have a look at those two doves just as I chat? It looks like the one there's a male, and I think he's quite keen on that female. Let's see if we can watch a little interaction here. And then, of course, elephants communicate through a number of different ways. We can hear some of the sounds. We can hear the trumpeting, which is not always a great sound. Normally, that is a distress call. However, sometimes you hear it with the youngsters when they're playing about too, and they give a couple of squeals for excitement. And then also, of course, that, like I was telling you, that rumbling that we can hear too. Now, I can't see where the other turtle dove has gone now. Is it even a turtle dove? I can't actually see from this distance. Can we have one close look just so I can confirm the identity of this bird? Where are you? Look at me. It is not a turtle dove. It is a pair of laughing doves that are around here. Now, the other one I think has actually flown off, if I'm not mistaken. I think yeah, it's gone. I thought we were going to see a beautiful courtship display. That's a bit disappointing. And there goes the other one too. Oh, well, that's all right. And we've been seeing that a lot at the moment. The laughing doves are very, very, very busy with building nests. And I'll see if I can try and remember where David and I had found that nest that was starting to develop. And yesterday, Herbie and I, it was quite difficult to get a camera in the shot that I wanted to show you, but we found a laughing dove's nest again with one little egg inside of it. So let's see if we can find something like that today, and then hopefully we can find more elephants where we shall further discuss the ways that they communicate and their different senses. But for now, I think we'll just move on. And I was actually hoping to get to the plains. I'm a bit sad I didn't get here earlier, because that was, well, sort of forming a tablecloth over Cheetah Plains. Right, there's a couple of gremlins over here on this road, so we're going to send you across to James and finish watching him dissect that owl.